Nataly Zukerman. In 1990, when I was 12, I had an accident. It's not a car accident. I think it's actually quite a stupid accident. It was an accident in the Scouts. We went to a summer camp up in the north of Israel, and we built, in accordance with the annual issue that was the Israeli army, we built a tank from big logs of wood. This is actually where we all slept. It was Saturday morning, and I was sent to the kitchen to work. Now, the kitchen was really far away, and I was 12, and I was really scared of people I didn't know. Even today, I'm a bit timid of people I don't know, so I lied. I said I had to bring something out of my bag. When I entered the tank, I heard, "Nataly, watch out!" And then the tank fell on me, the structure of the tank. I broke a vertebra in my back. I was paralyzed. I was hospitalized for about 6 months, and I had to learn to walk again. I walked with crutches until I was about 60. Even today, it still affects me. I limp, I can't run, I can't jump, and I can't climb the stairs without any help.
Disabled. You don't look disabled. Oh, honey, what happened to your leg? Oh, I didn't notice it until now. Do you need any help? It's amazing how much you overcame. You're amazing. That's why you didn't go to the army. It's their loss. I keep forgetting it over and over again. Get well soon.
Hi. My name is Nataly Zukerman. In 1990, when I was 12, I had an accident in the Scouts and I broke a vertebra in my back. At night at the hospital, my mom asked Dr. Hanani, 1 meter 90 centimeters, 6'2", if I would dance again. If she walks again, I will be pleased. I broke vertebra L1 that is located around here. It was broken completely and was thrown into the trash. It was replaced with a bone taken from here, my left pelvis. The vertebrae above it got twisted and it had to be put back in its place. The surgeon took the two vertebrae together, they tied them together, the new and the old, and put two metal plates on both sides of my spine and left me with a scar. I had an x-ray a few years ago and they found, I found out that one of them is broken.
Move your toe. Come on, you can do it. My mother in my hospital bed. Ramban Hospital, July 1990. I always worried most about you. My dad moving to a new flat, 2012. Why do you need to use the crutches? I'll help you walk. My first serious boyfriend, age 15, 1994. Do you need a hand? My friends, all the time. Who volunteers to bring me coffee? Of course I'm not going to ask you to do it. Senior lecturer at Tel Aviv University, 2013. Stop the train. She's disabled. My friend Tashi, Edinburgh Railway Station, Edinburgh Fringe Festival, 2004. Is your leg okay? If you need anything, I'm an orthopedist. A stranger, the corner of Bograshov and Ben Yehuda Streets, age 24, 2002.
Hi, my name is Nataly Zukerman. In 1990, when I was 12, I had an accident in the Scouts and I broke a vertebra in my back. I was paralyzed. I was hospitalized for about 6 months and I had to learn to walk again. I walked with crutches until I was about 16. Even today, it still affects me. I limp, I can't run, I can't jump, and I can't climb the stairs without any help. Today I'm actually 39, almost 40, and I graduated from Tel Aviv University, finishing my master's in performance. In one of the classes, I did a small performance piece. And at the end of it, Naama, she's a very good friend of mine, she gave me some feedback. She said, "You always choose deliberately actions that emphasize your disability." Thank you. March 1991 until 1992. Dr. Shemesh, Professor Nalaman, Professor Shako, age 13. There is no doubt that her physical limitation undermined and disrupt her everyday routine and her integration in different social settings. She should be given psychological evaluation and follow-up support once or twice a week to accompany her integration in various social settings. In the X-ray given to her on her release day from the hospital, a satisfactory recovery of the fracture was shown. She does not participate in sports lessons, she doesn't go to the beach, and she doesn't go on school trips. The plaintiff will not be able to work at a job that requires standing and walking. She'll be able to work full-time, only in a position that will allow her to sit down, according to her education and skills. The plaintiff seems to be mentally stable, and there is no need for therapy. In 2000, I moved to Scotland to study performance. In the first scene of one of the performances I performed in, we were asked to walk like runway models. Pamela, the director, also a very good friend of mine, said to me if I would mind to open the runway show in order to emphasize my limp in comparison to the normal walk of the other models' performers. It was a great success. Everyone thought I was a former model. So the next night she came to me and she said, "Do you mind exaggerating your limp? It just didn't really work, no one noticed it last night." A social worker, Gidon Haas, December 1992, age 13. In my opinion, this is a girl who is highly motivated, socially accepted by her peers, and is not feeling sorry for herself. She doesn't suffer from depression, she doesn't keep to herself, and I think she accepted the situation in a very positive way. In my opinion, supported also by Professor Shako, she does not need therapy or psychotherapy. Moreover, I think the victim can serve as an example of a successful rehabilitation. When she will grow up, she will acquire a profession and will become a positive role model in society. Until a few years ago, I used to go on quite a lot of blind dates. Now, I don't want to sell them a pig in a poke, because eventually the question arises, what happened to your leg? And then what do I answer? So, I'd like to tell you about a blind date I had with this guy called Tal. We arranged to meet in a cafe, so by the time he got there, I already sat down. He was really good looking, tall, blonde, and I think he really liked me too because we flirted. And then we talked, and he asked me what am I working on. So I told him about the Other Body, and I told him about my injury. And as I'm talking, I noticed that he seeps deeper and deeper into his chair. His facial expressions ranges between discomfort and agony. Tal, is everything okay? I feel like I'm drowning, but you know, it's your story. I don't want to. You go ahead. You go ahead and speak. Oh, Tom, it's nothing. You know, I tell the same story since I was 12. Hi, my name is Nataly Zukerman. In 1990, when I was 12, I had an accident in the Scouts and I broke a vertebra in my back. I was paralyzed. I was hospitalized for 6 months. I had to let work out. You know, it's nothing. It doesn't feel like it's nothing. Not the kind of answer you're looking for in your first date. So, somehow I managed to get this out of it. But we talked about Shakespeare and Hamlet, if it's relevant to stages today or not relevant to stages today. But it wasn't really the same. When we got up to leave, my legs really shivered. Now, go and explain to him that when I'm nervous, I shiver much more, therefore I limp much more. Yes, I can see that you're limping. Okay, quite positive that that was the end of the date, but then he turned around and said, do you want me to come over? No. I mean, I have to get up really early tomorrow, I have to teach. Do you want to come maybe another night? Silence. You know what, Tal? I'm going to tell you what we're going to do. I'm going to give you a kiss on the cheek, a hug, and I'm going to go. Okay? Okay.
It's all in your head. You want to take part in extreme sports for disabled people? You're not disabled. But everyone here walks really fast. Can't you pick up the pace? Does it hurt? Women don't care about men's scars, but for men it's important that their women will be physically perfect. It's biological or something. It really doesn't bother me. I love your scars. You're amazing.
Thank you. Hi everyone. Can you see me? Is that okay? What you just saw was a part of the show that I created when I was 34, about 5 years ago, called The Other Body. That's what I've been up to in the last few years. I made 2 shows, one is The Other Body and the other one is called Practice Makes Perfect. And both of them can be placed under the category of what you can call disability arts or artability. But I would say that in Israel, we don't have those kind of categories, or we don't even have a name or a title for it. So that's what I've been up to in the last few years. You know by now, if you've heard it many times, my name is Nataly Zukerman and I'm a performance artist. And I often ask myself, why only at the age of 34 I managed to make my own show, my first show, and put myself in the center stage. Why for so many years I was behind the scenes. And today I want to share with you kind of my conclusion. I want to share with you my experiences and the insights that I've got to why only at the age of 34 I managed to actually call myself disabled person or disabled artist. Why it took me so long to own this term and to kind of make it my own. So this is what we're going to talk about today. And like any good stories, we will start at the beginning, because that's where all good stories starts. So I was born in 1978 to Louis and David. I'm the eldest daughter out of 3, and I had a really beautiful, normal childhood. No picket fence, dog, 3 cats, just the works. And I was really creative, and I loved singing and I loved dancing. My aunt likes to tell that in every family occasion, I made everyone, the whole of my family, dance the hokey pokey. And I also found this tape cassette from many years ago. Apparently I was about 4, and my dad recorded me making up songs and kind of singing and dancing. You can hear me laughing and very loudly. And I danced. I danced in every possible ballet studio in the area where I grew up. I love dancing. I was so passionate about it that I had this horrible crisis when I was about 11, when my dance teacher, she didn't want to let me, to learn how to stand on my toes like a ballerina. And I was so offended. Obviously, it makes sense, I was too young, but for me, I was like, I'm not good enough. And I was so mad at her that I didn't want to go back to the dance studio. And my mom had to make amends between us in order for me to go back. So it was very physical also. I was in the running team at school. I was practicing gymnastics, and I walked the fastest. Everyone knew that Nataly walks the fastest. In my family or among my friends. And then I was injured. So everything changed in like 1 second. And that meant that I couldn't dance anymore. And I couldn't handle it. My heart was broken. Don't have any better phrase to say it. And my mom even said that I got, in the hospital, people giving me gifts because of the injury. So I got even like 2 ballerina shoes, and she had to throw them away. Because I didn't want to talk about it, and I didn't want to see it, and I just wanted to, move on. But the dance never left. It was always there. Like fate or destiny, or I don't know how to explain it. And in the hospital, I was there for 6 months. And the bed next to me was a dancer called Tamar Borel. Borel is a really well-known dancer and choreographer in the Israeli dancing. And around the time I was injured, she was injured too in a car accident, and she remained paralyzed, and she's in a wheelchair. And I adored her. She was really scary, and much older than me, and I was really tiny. But I remember like sitting next to her bed like that, looking at her. And I could see she was struggling. She was really struggling to cope with the new situation. But when she was released from the hospital, she continued to make work, and until today, she dances in a wheelchair and she makes work. She's still a very well-known choreographer in Israel. A few years after I was released from the hospital, I met my old dance teacher, and she told me, you won't believe it, I just saw Tamar perform the other week. And I was like, I couldn't believe that she kept dancing, I kept admiring her from afar. And it was like, that was like another dream of mine, can still come true. And then I asked her, how was it? And she said to me, I will never forget it, she said, Tamar should leave the dancing for the dancers. And what she does, that's not considered to be dancing. And that really, really stayed with me for a very long time. If my dance teacher says that, the stage is for people that can, and I can't, then I don't have a room on stage. And that was it. But I couldn't, I don't know if some of you know study arts here, but when you want to be on stage, you have to be on stage. So I was looking for a way to heal, and I asked my mom if she minded to enroll me to a drama class when I was 14. But I had to do an audition first. And I will never forget that day. It was a big auditorium, and only the teacher, the drama teacher was there. She was sitting, and I walked up to the stage. At the time, I was walking with my crutches. And I walked up to the stage, and I put my crutches aside, and until today I have to sit because I can't stand for a very long time, and I sat on a chair, and the whole of the auditorium was blacked out, and there was only one light, and that light was me. And I remember I started my monologue, and then she looked at me, and it was magic. And it was the first time after a very long time that I wanted someone to look at me. Now, being with crutches and being a teenager, it's a complicated and complex experience because, you know, you were kind of that age, but I don't know if you like people to look at you, but I didn't. And especially I didn't want anyone to look at me when I was walking with my crutches. And think about it, I had doctors examining me on a weekly basis, physiotherapists touch me on a daily basis. I had private investigators follow me on behalf of the Social Security Office and insurance companies. I had to make sure that no one can see me when I do things, because otherwise they might say, oh, she's rehabilitating, she's okay, so I won't get the money that I needed so much for therapy. So people looking at me down the streets was walking with my crutches, and I walked really slowly also. And people, and even the students at school were, you know, poking, kind of going, gossiping. And that was like a horrible experience for me. So the stage became my refuge, because on stage, I can control what you see of me and how you see me. And at the outside world, I don't have that control. I can control the gaze of the society. So what happened is when I was 14 and 16, I walked always like this. As if to say, okay, if I don't see you, therefore you will not see me. If I don't look at you, therefore you will not look at me. And when I was 16 and the doctor said that's fine, I put my crutches aside. And I said, I don't want anyone to know that I've got a disability. You know, and I loved it. I loved the fact that they walked down the street and they were looking at me. That was amazing. But I have to say that, you know, people that knew about my disability were very, very supportive. Like my school, for example. I had a special car drive taking me every day to school. And due to my back pains at the time, I couldn't go to school a lot. So it was all approved by my teacher in advance, and that didn't affect my grades. I couldn't run or do any physical activities. So I was exempt from sports lessons. Yay. And also, because I couldn't hike or do very physical activities, I was exempt from high school trips. And don't get me wrong, I thought that's amazing, you know, they're really accommodating to my needs, that's brilliant. But let's look at it from a different perspective, okay? I didn't do almost anything but studying. I didn't do almost any other social activities. I was actually excluded from many of the activities that we did in the school. And I don't know how it's here, but in Israel there's a lot of social activities, and I was always left at home. And I didn't say anything. I just said, you know, I can't do this. And they were like, oh, if you can, that's fine. You don't have to come. You know, stay at home. Now, I'm a teacher today. And I can't help it by wondering, wasn't it just the easiest way out? Why no one fought over me? Why didn't they change the curriculum? You know what? I do Pilates and yoga really well. So I can't run. They could change the curriculum in order for me to take part. High school trips. They could make it an easier route, or maybe to take us to a museum. But I didn't want to be a burden. Why should everyone else suffer just because of me? Why should everyone change their plans just because of me? So it just made much more sense, you know. The school and me, we both agreed that I'll stay at home, so much better. And that's the way I grew up, until I was about 18. And I don't know if you know, but in Israel, when you're 18, everyone has to go to the army. So that's like a mandatory. Again, I was excluded, and I was told I won't be drafted. So I was like, okay, no worries, that's fine. I want to be an actress, I'll go and study acting. But that also turned out to be problematic. I phoned one of the biggest acting schools in Israel, and said that I want to enroll, and they said, why didn't you go to the army? So I told them, hi, my name is Nataly Zukerman, in 1990, the whole thing. Can you do movement classes? I don't think I will be able to. Then be really, really sorry, but you won't even be able to audition. And that's the kind of answer I got from many of the other acting schools, except one that got me into the preparatory program. Not first year, but let's start. Let's see how it works. And you know what? Again, that was fine because, you know, the perception is that an actor needs to be versatile. And they need to be able to embody different characters, different characteristics. So on one hand to be a chameleon, but on the other hand, you know, there is something called typecast. So how many limping characters do we know? I know 3. Oedipus, Richard III, both guys, so obviously I can't do them, and another one. But it's like, I knew my Ophelia will always have a limp. And that was 20 years ago, so maybe things have changed, but not really. Because in the Israeli stage, there's still hearing characters are played by, deaf characters are played by hearing actors, or the same as disabled characters. And I even read an interview not so long ago with this emerging disabled actress, and she was talking about her ordeal to get into one of the acting schools, which was about 5 years ago. And she was refused to all of them, so she decided to do an experiment. In the last audition, she decided to lie. And she said that she twisted her ankle, because she's got a similar limp to me. And guess what? She got it. 2 weeks after, when they realized that her sprained ankle isn't going away, and she continued to limp, she was called to the head of the acting school, the head of the acting school, to his office. And she was told she's on probation. Not because she lied. She was on probation because they weren't sure there is a room for a disabled actress in the Israeli theater scene. They'll have to see. So she was on probation most of the years she was there. She finished, she graduated. And obviously she had an article in the newspaper, so she's actually performing and doing quite well. But I got it. I got the message. No worries. I don't need to be in center stage. I'll just be behind the scenes. I'm really good, actually. I can direct. I can direct really well. So I decided to enroll when I was about 19 to a directing course at Seminary Kibbutz College. But even then, you have to take movement classes, even as a director. And everyone was like, you're fine, you don't have to do it. And you know what? I didn't want to do it. I didn't even want to watch. Because when I watch, it means that I have to see what everyone else can and I can't. And it was very painful to see what they can and I can't. So that's the way it was, but something's changed. In my last year, in my 3rd year, we were asked by one of my tutors to create a performance in which we introduce ourselves to our classmates. And I was like, okay, we've been together for 3 years. What can I tell them that they don't know already about me? And I decided that instead of to perform a character, I will be myself on stage. And I will perform different actions that they never saw me do before. So I danced. I didn't dance for 10 years until that moment. And I invited everyone of the audience to come and dance with me on stage. And in another segment, I exposed my back, and I asked people to color paint my scar. It was amazing because I could hear people crying at the back. I was like, wow, I'm interesting. People are interested in my story. That was like, wow. But I knew, that was one exercise in 3 years. So I don't have a place in the Israeli scene. And I decided to move to Scotland to study performance. And I always wanted to study abroad. My dad studied in UCLA, my mom in London, not something relating to the arts, but I knew I wanted to study. And also I was really sheltered when I was a child because of my injury. So, I wanted to find my own independence, and I left. And I studied at Divine Theatre, which means that I could have devised my own work and maybe use myself on stage. And it was all based on collaborative process and group work. First day, first lesson, we had to play tag. Now, I can't play tag because I can't run. So, again, going to in England, you say tutor, here you say professor. So I went to my professor and I said, hi, my name is Nataly Zukerman. In 1990, when I was 12, again, the whole story over and over again. Now think how much anxiety that produces. They have to tell your story all the time, especially when you don't want anyone to know you've got a disability. And that's obviously, remember, it's my first day in a foreign country. I have to speak in English. Didn't have my support system. So my anxiety levels were very, very high. And I always get that look of, well, I have to say that every time, I have that look of, we're so sorry. No one said we're really sorry, but that's kind of the look. And then it's like, yes, of course, but you don't have to take part. You can sit aside. But he didn't do that. He just kept asking me more and more questions. And then he said to me, you have to take part. Everyone in this class takes part. It's like, okay. We will change the rules of the game. The rules, the game won't define who we are. We will define the game. At the time, I didn't really understand what it meant, but now I understand that it means that, if we look at the game, there are those who can and those who can't. Everyone can. But we have to be very creative in order to change the rules of the game. That was mind-blowing for me. I was like, wow. Is that mean actually all this time I was sitting aside and didn't take part? There was a game and I wasn't part of it? And that really changed the way I looked at my physicality, about the way I look at the world. And I started, at that time, started to take movement classes. And it wasn't easy because they obviously also came from, most of the professors were there, who came from the acting school. And again, like we said, actors need to be versatile, and I wasn't. But they were willing to make changes and to make amends. And we were like really looking for new ways of doing things. And also we had to realize something new. We had to realize that when I can't do an exercise, it doesn't mean that I'm failing it. It means that I'm just doing it differently. And actually, it's really beautiful. Because when I shiver, when my legs shiver, no one can do that, just me. And it's the most beautiful shiver you would ever see. And it's got value on stage. It's beautiful. And I really remember that moment when I had to choreograph a dance, and I choreographed a dance with a chair, again, because I love chairs. And I remember that surprised look on my tutor's face and how proud he was of me, because he was actually really good. And again, I was like, okay, there is value of my body being on stage. There's a reason why I keep back to it. And that was the moment I started gradually shedding this experience, of being behind the scenes and kind of being in the closet, the disability closet. And I was like, okay, I need to start being much more out. I need to stop hiding so much. At the time, I realized that I never associated the word disabled with my situation. Because when I grew up, when I was your age, I didn't have any disabled friends. And I remind you, I had a special car drive taking me to school. Most kids in this special car drive were disabled. I excluded myself from them. They weren't part of me. I don't even remember their name until now. I feel really bad about it, but I don't. And even my parents, no one thought of me as the disabled girl. I was like the girl with the limp. And I've got this, I found a diary that I wrote when I was 12, and I referred to myself as being almost disabled. The girl next to me, who was in a wheelchair, she was disabled. She was the miserable one that will stay like that. And I am the one that got away. Even the other patients in the hospital, they excluded me also because it was quite obvious that I'm starting to walk and they didn't. And everyone invested in me walking. So that was the kind of atmosphere I grew up. So when I moved back to Israel, and I referred to myself as being disabled, I remember that moment when my friends were like, "You're not disabled." And I got that so many times since. And on one hand, I was really happy. It's not a big deal, I don't have a disability, it's only small. But I was like, why are we so scared of this word? Why are we so scared of it? And I wanted to find out why, and I went into a bit of research, and I realized that the world is divided into two groups of people. Those who are disabled now, and those guys who will be disabled in the future. We are all here on the disability spectrum. I know it might take a few years, but a hip replacement, a caretaker, nursing home, we are all there. And when we see someone with disability, we are scared because we know that's an option, that we will be one day that person. And that's why the fear of the disabled is so unsettling and deep. I wanted to make shows about it. I was like, you know, people need to talk about it. No one talked about it. So I was trying to figure out, when does my disability appear in the everyday life? And I realized that at home, I don't feel disabled at all, because at home, everything is accommodated to my needs. But the minute I step outside, that's when my disability raises its head. My biggest enemy is the staircase. Any staircase. Hate staircases. Because for most people, you know, you just have to walk up the stairs or down the stairs. For me, that takes a lot of effort, and I have to use the railing. So you know that moment when you come to a staircase and then you see a sign saying fresh paint? I hate that moment. So then what do? And then I have to walk up like a little child, like 2 steps at a time. And then everyone again looking at me, because everyone was, why is she walking like a 2-year-old? And then my disability again, and I don't want to be disabled. I don't want people to notice it. So I realized that what makes me disabled is the staircase. It's a barrier, friends, between those who can and those who can't. And if you think about it, I went to the aquarium with my partner the other day here. And the aquarium is built as a spiral. So women with trolleys or men with trolleys, people in a wheelchair, and me, we all walk together. But when you've got a staircase, then you have to go, this is for the able ones, and the lift, which is over there, is for those who, and that means that we're not together. So I found the busiest staircase I could find in Israel, and I put my beautiful black dress, and I started walking up and down. And I wanted to make a piece that, in the piece I had to walk like an able person. And if I didn't manage to take the step correctly, I had to do it again. So from a 5 minutes action, it became a durational piece of 3 hours, because it took me a very long time. And I was invited to perform it in the Jerusalem Cinematheque, which has a very big staircase in the middle. And it was part of I was performing in a disability art festival. So, with my dress on, stand in the middle of the staircase, went up and down with people. Now, I do it quite slowly, so I was the element that interferes with the flow of the crowd. And then I had people shouting at me, oh, get away, get away. Now, just to remind you, we're in a disability art festival. Or people saying, do you want to take the lift? Wouldn't that be easier? Or even nice people who came and said, do you need any help? And I could see from the corner of my eye this guy, and he was watching me for about 3 hours. And he was walking with his crutches. And at the end of it, he came and to speak to me, and he told me he's got cerebral palsy. And he said to me, what you've been through in the last 3 hours, this is something I've been through the whole of my life. I want to take the stairs. People shouting at me, people suggesting I should take the lift. I don't want to. I want to use the stairs. It was the first time that the person with disability, that we would all say he's disabled, said that we share the same experience, the same feeling. And that was a very special moment to me, because then I realized I have a community. I'm part of a community that I wasn't aware that I'm part of. And I need to stop hiding, and I need to start claiming my rights. And I was 34 at the time, and I was like, enough is enough, and I decided to create the Other Body. It was the first time I actually stood in center stage and said, I'm here, and I left a sign over my head saying I'm disabled. So all those experiences brought me to this day to come and speak to you today. And you know, maybe there aren't enough characters for limping women, but I make my own work. And I've got value about my body being on stage. And we need to see more other bodies, whatever that definition is, to be placed on stage so we will all see it. We know that it's here. Thank you for listening to me today and being part of my journey. Thank you.